Hi, my name is Joseph Derr. I'm the editor of Contract Manufacturing and Packaging, a Packaging World supplement. Today, I'm sitting down with my colleague, Liz Cuneo, who's the editor-in-chief of Healthcare Packaging, to dig into the key findings of the 2026 Annual Outlook Report, a healthcare packaging reader survey. She's going to give us a sneak peek into the healthcare packaging trends for 2026. The full report is available at the shorty link you see on your screen now. It's pwgo.to/9052, and all the links to the full report should be available on whatever channel you're watching now, on our website, on LinkedIn, or YouTube. So give that link a click to access the full report. But today we want to give a quick taste of some of our results, and that's why I'm here with Liz, who's the brains behind our 2026 Healthcare Packaging Survey. Hi, Liz, and thanks for joining me to talk about this reader survey, which I understand is the first of its kind for healthcare packaging. Is that right?
That's right. Hi, Joe. It's so nice to be with you today. Yes, this is our first reader report of this kind, but it will not be the last.
That's great, Liz. So to start, why don't you give us a big picture? What are the big trends that you see in the defining theme of your report for the 2026 outlook for healthcare packaging?
Yeah, so there's a few actually. The industry is changing due to regulatory shifts, changes, and new technology emerging constantly, as well as the uptick in biologics, including GLP-1s, just to name a few. But to pick a defining theme, it's really this: the industry continues to adapt to the demands of regulatory pressures. But it's kind of mixed in with a little bit of patient safety and sustainability, really putting the pressure on. So if you look at the report, though, you'll notice that what's really driving packaging decisions and really the number one response to that question, meaning the question more specifically, what most influences your packaging decisions, the number one response is cost efficiency.
Interesting. Did that surprise you, Liz?
So, yes and no. When you look at the other factors listed that readers could choose from, which included regulatory compliance, patient adherence, sustainability, anti-counterfeiting, and more, those are the trends that we write about all the time. But the bottom line is sort of always the bottom line, right? That's why 67% of respondents chose cost efficiency as the primary decision driver. Cost is important for any company in any industry, and so it's no different in med device and pharma. The close second that readers chose was supply chain resilience. That came in at 62%, which makes sense to me because, it's directly related to the cost of goods and the availability of products.
Yes, definitely. Cost is a huge driver in any industry. So, Liz, within the report, readers gave insights into packaging innovations they're adopting. What were some of the top responses you got?
Yeah, so we asked specifically which packaging innovations they are currently exploring or adopting. And respondents most frequently cited smart packaging technologies. Think NFC, RFID enabled solutions. That came in at 73%. It's really interesting to see the industry heading that way. Packaging is becoming so much more than just a box or a vial or a bottle. It's no longer a static container, is what I mean by that. It's a chance to really interact with the consumer and deliver valuable data across the value chain. So we also have sustainability, right? That's always top of mind. So I wasn't too surprised to see that recyclable or compostable materials follow closely at 57% each, reflecting, of course, a continued and strong interest in sustainability.
Interesting. So, Liz, what about the challenges in the industry right now? What are people reporting as hindrances to adopting new solutions?
Yeah, so while the interest and drive is there to adopt new packaging solutions, of course, there are always challenges for any company. So it was interesting to see that there was a lot of different responses when we asked this question, different categories. So when readers were asked about their challenges, it revealed that there are, in fact, many challenges that each company faces, and perhaps even all at the same time. So most readers responded with material availability as the number one challenge. That came in at 59% of readers selecting that response. Regulatory hurdles was a close second, followed by cost restraints. So a lot of the topics we already have been talking about during this. So compliance with stringent regulatory standards, of course, that's a foundational pillar for all pharmaceutical packaging initiatives. So I actually thought that would be the top response. That would be their top challenge. But it wasn't. So, material availability was. So while I'm not certain which materials readers had in mind when selecting that one, out in the field and at events and during interviews, I am hearing more and more about the industry navigating the transition towards single material sustainable packaging without compromising sterility, and of course, while still being in compliance. So there's definitely a hunger and a push for these alternative materials.
Very interesting. Now, looking at the future, where does it look like pharmaceutical packaging is headed to you?
Yeah, so we asked this in an open-ended question for our readers. We just wanted to know, what was their take without giving them the parameters of what to choose from. So, responses were a mix, but honestly, they were a mix of really three things, which was interesting. So these are them according to our readers. So it's more technology and smart packaging and technology overall, more sustainability, and really a focus on personalized medicine, patient-centric care, and things like that.
Interesting. So let's dig into sustainability a little bit. How important is that to readers?
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is very important to healthcare packaging readers. We asked that, outright, and 73% said it's extremely or very important, suggesting that while there are challenges in the pharma space, the desire and willingness to really boost sustainability is there. So we also asked, digging in to that response, what sustainable packaging initiatives are companies implementing or planning to implement, and it was pretty revealing. The main initiative being explored or implemented was the elimination of packaging components. That was 70% of responses. So, that could be lightweighting, that could be making something smaller, just reducing overall material usage, which I think is pretty exciting. 60% responded switching to renewable or bio-based materials. So, again, that desire is really there to look at these alternative materials in healthcare. It's worth noting that 74% of respondents say that the main driver behind a sustainability initiative is their personal environmental responsibility, which I thought was encouraging to see.
Very interesting. Now, Liz, we all know that in healthcare, there are challenges in adopting sustainable materials due to the strict regulations that we're seeing. Are there other hurdles or barriers to adopting more sustainable solutions in your view?
Yeah, so there are always barriers, regulations being probably the top one. But actually, readers kind of gave us a different viewpoint into that. So 60% of readers selected that concerns over product stability, shelf life is a barrier to this. So the desire for material, maybe alternatives are there, but shelf life and stability is obviously very important in the industry. So there's concerns over what that looks like. There was also concerns over compatibility with existing production lines. 64% of readers had that response. And then there's the regulatory restrictions or approval delays. That was 54% of response. There's also the barrier of limited availability of suitable materials. And then perhaps a shock, the cost of change is shown at 33% of responses. This had some experts that I spoke with a little surprised, thinking that number would be a lot higher.
Interesting. So it really all goes back to the bottom line, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, and definitely the bottom line is, what is top of mind. But circling back to you when you asked about the future of pharma, I had mentioned earlier that technology is changing. There are some really exciting new digital tools out there to help pharmaceutical companies in various ways. That's why we can't talk about the future of the segment without talking about digitalization.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot about digitalization strategies and some of the new tools that are available. And these are for any industry, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, any industry. In our case, the adoption of digital tools in healthcare manufacturing and packaging, it's really transforming how medical devices, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare packaging are designed, produced, and monitored. The primary purpose is to improve efficiency, quality, compliance, and patient safety in an increasingly complex and very regulated industry. So it's not surprising to see that 63% of respondents have a digitalization strategy already. Industry experts agree. I have a quote here from Tom Utek. He's a CEO for IA. He's a licensed pharmacist and a leading industry expert for medication management. He agrees. He says he's not surprised to see that 63% of companies already have a digitalization strategy. The people that he talks to in the industry, the general consensus is that embracing new technologies is an essential part of strategy moving forward. So really, I mean, it's kind of like hop on board or get off the boat. Maybe that's not a saying, but I mean, if it's going digital, we really have to catch up to it.
Yeah. What's motivating some of these companies to get behind these new digital tools, would you say?
Yeah, so we asked the question pretty point blank, what's motivating you and why are you adopting it? And the number one motivation, the number one response was adopting these digital tools to reduce human error.
Very interesting. Now, Liz, do you have any insights about into which areas of or which digital tools the readers of our survey are implementing right now?
Yes. So the number one area where companies anticipate growth in for digital tools is data analytics. We hear a lot about that, and that's probably across various industries. Closely followed is AI and predictive maintenance. With connected systems and IoT-enabled devices, manufacturers can collect and analyze vast amounts of data to identify process deviations early on. This allows them to optimize production parameters and predict maintenance needs. These tools, this it ultimately leads to more reliable and reproducible outcomes, which is always important in manufacturing. So, and that tracks because we asked readers, and they said the number one thing driving them toward digital transformation, again, is that desire to reduce human error. So tightening up production, reducing error, being a little bit more productive, really understanding, the process overall.
Interesting. Now, Liz, I think I heard you mention that 63% of the readers have a digitalization strategy. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, 63%.
So what about the 30%, 37%, right, that don't have
Yeah.
one? Why do you think they're not embracing these new technologies we talked about?
Yeah, so it is an interesting, 63 sounds like a lot, but 37% is a lot too. So, there is definitely a segment that's not. So we asked that specifically in the number one response. So 41% of readers said that the reason that they're not is they don't know how to prioritize. And this can be a real hindrance, not knowing what and how to prioritize. And this is for adopting anything new, right? Especially when we're talking about these digital tools that require maybe a learning curve and some expertise. So industry experts agree that the place to start is to look at your pain points. Look at your pain points in your operation and work to alleviate those first.
Very interesting. Now, automation was a topic within your report. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And what's going on there? Are companies adding in automation to their packaging operations this year? And what's the outlook for that?
Yeah, 64% said yes, they are implementing automation this year. The main driver being to add speed and throughput. As you know, automated packaging lines support better quality control, things like built-in sensors, vision systems. Overall, automation really does, produce greater productivity, reliability, and scalability, all important things in the industry. And it really helps these companies stay competitive in a demanding global market. So it was not a shock to see that 64% said yes.
Mhm.
What I did find a little bit surprising is that adopting automation, they're primarily looking to implement this in the primary packaging operation. So I hear a lot about end of line automation, right? But that's not where they're going to be adopting it this year. It's primary packaging. To me, that suggests that perhaps most manufacturers' end of lines are already highly automated.
Well, thank you very much, Liz. It was very informative. It's been great to talk to you today. And as you mentioned, I think knowing what to prioritize is a challenge for the healthcare brands, and I'm sure that
Mhm.
um, you know what you're doing, the great work that you're doing on Healthcare Packaging Magazine is going to help them do that, and help them make those decisions. So I'd encourage everyone in our audience to check out the report, check out the great work you're doing online. And that's about all the time we have really to talk about this overview for the healthcare packaging chapter of Packaging World's Outlook report for 2026. Now, remember, the full report is available at packworld.com, so be sure to access that report that has all the chapters of our annual Outlook report. So thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time, Liz.
Thank you, Joe, so much. It was great doing this with you.